Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network on this Wednesday, February the 14th, 2024. Thanks for listening to AFR Live Radio right here. So, good morning to you, Ed Vitagliano.
Good morning, Tim. Live radio. So, folks, prepare yourselves to marvel and cringe during the same program. It can happen. Both can happen.
Right. You better be careful on live radio because you can't take it back.
No, It's out there.
All right, Ed's with us, Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning, and since we are on live radio, this is kind of like asking your spouse a question in front of other people. So I'd like to do that now. Have y'all finally, has it been officially voted on that I can stay? Because I know I've been on for about a month and a half now.
Well, we have a pretty severe grading system here at Today's Issues. So
I thought I put you on the spot on live radio where you couldn't say no.
Mine's not my system's not too complicated. Have you bought me a pizza? No.
No. Okay. Well,
you are still on
that's
probation.
the answer to the question. You answered your own question. Buy him a pizza before the day's out,
and then you're in.
Yeah, but y'all have all done that, right? Or y'all been on the other end of it where their spouse asks you a question in front of other people?
Ooh,
you know what
I'm
talking?
Kids.
Or
it's
kids.
even worse with kids.
Yeah.
But let me introduce Fred Jackson over here, who's remaining silent.
On the marital advice. Right?
Just enjoying the banter here.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you mean? What do you mean? But
put on the spot.
in front of kids, what do you mean?
Well, you'd better, when you talk in front of your kids, like with your spouse, you better make sure that it cannot be said outside the house. Okay?
Oh, I got you.
If I ever say to my wife, "Oh, I can't stand,
so-and-so.
Pastor so-and-so or whatever," then be prepared out in public. Is it true, Daddy, that you can't stand our pastor?
Whatever it is, right?
Whatever it may be.
Daddy, was this the man you were talking about?
Yeah, that kind of. Yeah.
Is your name Bill?
Wow, he is ugly.
And my son's 8 years old. He can read exceptionally well, and so now when I hand him my phone at times, not often, but at times to play a baseball game or a video game on my phone, a text message start coming through. So he'll start reading them to me out loud.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
Which is not,
Right. This is Bennett's teacher. He had a terrible day at school today.
And he's reading it.
No.
All right.
He's a good kid, and but when they do learn to read, you got to up your
and spell.
Parent, yeah.
You
can't spell words in front of kids.
Can't spell words. Hey, do we have any more ICE, CREAM?
All right. All right, so anyway, thanks for joining us on this Valentine's Day 2024. Much to discuss. Hey, Sandy Rios is going to be with us next hour, so 11:05 Central Time, Sandy Rios will be with us. She's got a brand new book out, her autobiography. It's excellent. You want to get a copy of it. It's called God's Velvet Hammer.
She's got an amazing story.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will talk with her next hour.
At the bottom of the hour, Steve Dace, host of the Steve Dace Show on Blaze TV, will be joining us. So we got some
guests. So if you don't like what we're talking about,
that's right. Hang on.
We got other people you might like better coming up. So, Fred, what's leading the news this morning?
Well, in their second attempt to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, the Republicans were successful last night. Thanks to the addition of Steve Scalise, who is back from cancer treatment in Louisiana. He provided the one vote that was needed. It was close, 214 to 213. But the impeachment vote did go through last night in the House, and that means it goes over to the Senate, where there will be a trial. And the procedure is basically, as soon as the Senate gets these articles of impeachment, they have to stop all activity. And then we go into this trial. And we became very familiar with this during the Trump years.
Yes.
So that's what it apparently is about to happen. But I think most people are familiar, if you've been listening to this program for any time, what's going on with the opposition to Secretary Mayorkas. One of the articles of impeachment basically is that Mayorkas, under oath in previous hearings in the House, lied under oath. That is what the Republicans are saying. They were asking him, when we were seeing videos of these hundreds of thousands of people flowing into our country, not being stopped, he was asked repeatedly, is our border secure? And he kept saying, our border is secure. Now, he's changed his tune in recent weeks, saying, and that's all because of a Democrat strategy. Basically now, Democrats understand the border crisis is a big election issue. Now they're trying to blame the Republicans for not providing money for more border agents to do paperwork on these illegals. Anyway, wanted to play you a little montage of some of the Republicans last night, just after this vote, as to why they felt it necessary to impeach Mayorkas. Cut number one.
I'd be real surprised if they didn't try to rush it, because look, every day we talk about the border is bad for their guy.
My message to the Senate is they should look at the polling, and they know that our border security is the number one issue.
When you look at the egregiousness, the breach of public trust, the fact that the Secretary has willfully refused to comply with the law on multiple occasions, multiple times.
Well, former Florida Congressman Allen West joined our Jenna Ellis this morning to also talk about this, and he believes not only in impeaching Mayorkas, but Biden also. Cut number two.
This clearly shows that the Democrats who voted not to impeach him, they don't care about our border. They don't care about the drug, the human and sex trafficking, and now the terrorist trafficking. And they don't care about the Constitution and, telling the truth. When you look at Joe Biden, he has committed treason against the United States of America, high crimes and misdemeanors, by allowing terrorists to come across our border. And I think he should be held accountable as well. So it's not excusing Joe Biden. I think everyone in that administration should be held accountable for the lies that they have perpetrated against us, the American people, and our Constitution.
Pretty strong word there, treason, accusing Biden of treason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's this is my personal opinion. You guys might disagree with me here, right, on this show, but I think that's I think that's a stretch.
The treason part, right?
The treason part. And the problem for Republicans, and not just Republicans, because I'm not sure even most of the Republicans are on board with actually doing something about the border, but let's just say conservatives, people who are extremely concerned. I do agree with Colonel West about the fentanyl, the other drugs coming across, the human trafficking, the terrorists coming over. There's a story the last day or two, we may get to it, about the FBI being concerned that, I guess, okay, Fred, we'll get to that here coming up, MS-13 combining with Venezuelan gangs. I mean, we could have a situation where our inner cities are taken over by these vicious, violent gangs. So but the solution to this is why I'm so troubled, I don't think is impeaching President Biden. It's voting him out of office. And the fact that Democrats are defending him and people continue to vote for Democrats who continue these policies is what makes me pessimistic about our chances. I'm not sure Biden has committed any high crimes or misdemeanors, which is what you have. That's the threshold to have an impeachment. But he's derelict in his duty and should never be voted back into office by anybody.
Wesley?
Yeah, I was going to ask Fred.
I'm here too. So.
This is Fred's story. Don't take it from him.
Well, okay, I don't take Fred's story from him.
So it's not
I
likely.
haven't said anything like 2 minutes.
So from what I'm understanding, it's not likely. You're going to have your time.
Okay, thank you.
It's not likely that he will be removed, Mayorkas. It's not likely. I'm not saying impossible. Not likely. What would be some benefits or some things that could come from this, even if he's not removed? Just him being impeached, because it's been over 100 years, hasn't it? Since
yes, he is
position.
only the second cabinet minister to be impeached
Correct.
in the history of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think to your question, the benefit may be when the evidence is presented. I was going to say I'm assuming the networks will cover the Senate trial, but I shouldn't assume that.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Because the mainstream media, just looking at the impeachment vote last night, very reluctant to do much about it. But there are 9 impeachment. What is the terminology they use?
Articles?
No. The people who present the evidence for the Republicans.
You get the
Well, they act as prosecutors.
Act as prosecutors. Yeah. There's a term for it. Anyway, they are going to outline why they decided to impeach him. If the networks do cover this live, that information is going to come out there.
Right.
Now, the Democrats are going to poo-poo that.
Right.
Just depend on it. And they're going to dismiss it, saying this is a useless waste of time, et cetera, et cetera. But at least the American people will get the details as to what's going on. And I would think that the Republicans will even use the concerns being raised by the FBI to go to the story that you just referenced. The FBI is growing very concerned that the infamous and bloodthirsty MS-13 gang may be exploring an alliance with a gang of Venezuelan migrants blamed for a crime wave in New York City and trying to plant roots in other parts of the United States. I guess this shouldn't come as a shock to us that there are people crossing our border from Venezuela. They are gang members. We've already seen videos. We've already seen things happening with the 2 police officers in New York being attacked.
Right.
We saw the video just last week of they call them migrants, one of the illegals on a bicycle just riding up close to an elderly woman, grabbing her purse, knocking her down. This is just New York City. Also, we haven't talked about this, but I just heard a figure this morning. Since October, border authorities have said they've been able to track at least 20,000 Chinese nationals. 20,000 Chinese nationals, most of them young men of military age, I'll just say that, have crossed the border.
From the southern border?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
They're coming in. You may have seen the video of this. There is a place in California.
When you think about 8 million or 10 million, between 8 and 10 million, that's very light. I mean, there's nothing there that would suggest that.
But there's a huge hole in the fence, I think, just around San Diego. Mm-hmm. And they, on their phone, they're being given directions where to go and how to get into the country and what to do once they get in.
Oh, my word.
Tim, we want to invite you into this conversation.
Thank you. I'm just You want me to comment?
Yeah. We want to
I got a couple
you.
of comments. We've said it over and over. Joe Biden, the current president, doesn't give a rip about our country. If he did, he would stop this today. He doesn't care. His only goal, and quite frankly, I know this is an indictment of the whole Democrat Party, and not all of them would fall in this category. Fetterman, Senator from Pennsylvania, is certainly concerned about the illegal immigration of millions of people into our country. But, and Mayor Eric Adams up in New York's a whiner, complainer, a little baby, acting like a little baby. Can't do anything about illegal immigration with his president who's allowing it. He just wants to find blame for a Texas governor or something.
Yeah.
But listen, I lay this scenario, and by I mean don't care. I mean literally, they don't care. Their end goal is to let all these people from around the world into our country, keep them coming, open borders. Well, there's no border if it's open. Right. Just decimated our borders, but their end goal. And we can never let this happen. But their end goal is to get all these people flooding our country, then give them amnesty and a, quote, pathway to citizenship. Then they're allowed to vote by the millions, and then they vote Democrat in block, like African Americans do. Hispanics don't vote. They vote, 60-40 Democrat?
That's probably true.
But black folks in this country, 90-10 for Democrats.
Right.
So they want to establish a voting bloc with these illegal immigrants by making them citizens. and then you would create a permanent minority status for the Republican Party.
Yes.
So that's the big picture as far as the Democrats go. That's why every time they talk about this issue, they talk about it's Republicans need to help us deal with this so we can create and part of it is a, quote, pathway to citizenship.
Right.
And I'm going, no, that's not the obligation of the Republicans to create a pathway to citizenship for people who've come here illegally. You can never let these people become citizens if they've come here illegally, in my opinion, or it's an illegitimate process that
Right.
that it has an illegitimate voting block. That's my opinion. Listen, we have a legal process for entering this country. People listening to me right now have family or know people who've come here. They've come here through the process. Fred has a green card, right?
That's right.
So you have there are legal ways to enter this country. We let millions of people in to our country every year legally. They stand in line. They do the paperwork. They do it the right way.
More so than many other countries across the world.
Oh yeah, we're very welcoming as a country. But also, in addition to that, and these folks who are coming here illegally by the millions now because Joe Biden opened the floodgates, they're going to become dependent on social services and welfare, and that's what's going to happen. I'll give you one example here. There's many examples. The mayor of Denver, Colorado, is a Democrat. And the other day he was saying we're going to have to cut back on all our social services here because of the illegal immigration problem. He didn't say illegal, undocumented, or the people who've come here. It's creating a burden on our cities, okay, and our city budgeting. And then he said because of Republicans.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
He said because he did it with a straight face.
Right.
Because of Republicans.
You about the Colorado?
Yeah, the mayor of Denver, Colorado. Listen, what this is yesterday. The mayor of New York City. As I say, all he does is whine about it. He doesn't point the finger at where it needs to be pointed. That's why I say he just whines. He'll say federal government needs to step in. He won't say Joe Biden needs to stop this. He won't say it like that. He said, this is Mayor Adams yesterday, the mayor of New York City. He said, quote, our hearts are endless, but our resources are not. It's not like, this is Mayor Adams, it's not like New York is saying we are not a city of immigrants. We are. We have a rich history of immigrants. But we can't take the global problem and it become our problem. This is unfair to New Yorkers and it's unfair to migrants, end of quote. Well, welcome to Greg Abbott's world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it says it's not New York's problem, but you didn't complain when it was Houston, Texas's problem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You didn't complain when it was El Paso.
No, you were a sanctuary city, and these New York liberals and these Eastern liberals were peering down their nose at Texas and people in Arizona saying, you need to deal with that and help these people, and you're against brown people and all this racist. You're a racist. Right. Well, now all of a sudden Mayor Adams is saying we can't continue on here. We don't have unlimited resources. Well, he's a racist then by the definition
by the leftist definition.
By the leftist definition. What were you going to say?
Another example. I'm not sure we got to this yesterday. I know we talked in our story meeting, but Senator Tommy Tuberville, a Republican from Alabama, he is raising concerns that the Biden administration is sending illegals to Veteran Affairs clinics, and we've done stories.
Veterans Affairs clinics,
VA clinics.
Yes, he's sending.
Well, they're sleeping in airports.
Yep, because they get free medical care once they cross the border, and Tuberville is raising this concern. We've done stories over the years. These VA clinics, they've got wait lists, but these illegals, he says, are being given priority and being sent to these VA clinics. This is outrageous.
Yeah.
Listen, if you wondered whether the conspiracy theories that have been batted around are just too nutty to believe, those are the kinds of stories. All these people flooding in. I didn't know that it was 20,000 Chinese nationals, but to Wesley's point,
Just since October,
but to Wesley's point, 8 to 10 million, you're going to have a certain percentage. But in the event of an armed conflict between the U.S. and China, what do you think 20,000 Chinese nationals, especially men, young men of military age, What do you think they're going to be doing? Why do you think the communist nation of China is allowing those people, those young men, to come over here just to get a better life? No, they're over here to blow up our power plants and to poison water supply, to sow discord and chaos in a country that is also trying to fight a war against China. So these conspiracy theories are sounding more and more like they're maybe what's happening. And my own personal opinion is, at least the Marxist side of the Democratic Party, which is growing, they want collapse. They want the Constitution to collapse, our constitutional republic to collapse. So they're counting on being able to pick up the pieces and build a Marxist utopia here.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's crazy anymore, because how else do we explain what the Biden administration is allowing at the border? Human trafficking, children, sex trafficking.
Gangs, fentanyl.
Gangs.
The whole thing. Wesley, let me ask you a question.
Terrorism.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you guys, consider this scenario. I asked some people about this the other day. When Joe Biden, the president, and his administration, and they say they can't do anything more to secure the border, right? This is what they say. Unless
get more money,
unless the Republicans pass so and so. Okay. Let's say that Christopher Wray, the FBI director, walks into the White House this afternoon at lunch today and says, I need to meet with, well, he would have already set it up, but I need to meet with the president, the vice president, and national security advisor immediately. This is urgent. He calls over there. And then they get in the Situation Room in the White House, and Christopher Wray, the FBI director, says, Mr. President, we have intelligence that tells us that later this afternoon, anywhere between 5 and 7 o'clock, ISIS is going to cross the border with weaponry, come into our country.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
ISIS, Al Qaeda, whoever you want to say.
Right.
And sir, what do you want us to do about it? Because I need your authority here too. I need you're okay with us doing what we need to do. What do you think Biden would say?
Stop it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was so, sir. I have to close down the border.
Right. Yeah.
We have to lock down the border because we know approximately where these people are coming in, but we don't know exactly.
Yeah.
So you're telling me, Wesley, Biden would say to him what?
I would like to think he'd say, well, in that case, I got witnesses in the room that you're telling me this. I need you to deal with it.
Okay.
Lock down the border.
Lock down the border.
Right.
So I would say, so you're telling me you can lock down the border?
Correct.
Just depends on whether you have the will.
Yes.
That's right.
Or not.
That's
to
right.
lock down the border.
Yep.
See what I'm saying
I
here?
do. Yep.
So,
good point.
And yeah, so he could lock down my point is he could lock down the border right now, today. All you got to do is give the order.
Right.
Stop the flow. Stop it.
Sure.
Because in the scenario I laid out, terrorists to bring weapons, and we know it. The FBI knows it.
Yep.
Do you think Biden would say, well, Christopher Wray, I'd like to help you, man, but the Republicans didn't pass a law, and plus these people may want to plead asylum.
Yeah.
These Al Qaeda, they may want to say asylum, so I just don't think we can do anything to stop them.
Yeah.
You think he would say that? No, he would say, absolutely, you do whatever you have to do to close down that border.
Yep.
That's what he would do to protect our country.
Yep. Because he didn't see it as that big of a problem. And
No, he doesn't care.
Nope.
It would really be to protect my political future.
Yeah.
Well,
He doesn't care about protecting our country.
Whatever reason he wants.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be that. But the point is he could do it.
He could do it.
If he wanted to. We'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
I did something recently which I didn't want to do, but should have done a long time ago. All of us have a nature to put off something which we should do, delay it, wait until the very last moment to get it done. For me, it was a visit to the dentist to have a tooth filled. I should have gone a long time ago. Fact about the business is that my tooth had had a cavity for a long, long time, and it was continually getting worse. And over that time, I had consistently put off doing something I should have done. But finally, I gathered enough courage and time to get the dentist to check it out. I went to the dentist expecting full well that the tooth would be pulled, that I had waited too long to have any hopes and certainly any right to expect the dentist to save my tooth. But the dentist checked it out, found the roots in good condition and the nerves alive, and proceeded to fill that tooth and save it. I must confess that it was somewhat painful to have that tooth renewed. The nerves were very much alive, and several times I felt the grind of the drill on the nerve. Several times I tensed my muscles while the dentist was removing the decay. After that visit, it suddenly dawned on me that I had experienced a great theological truth. One of the finest sermons ever preached to me had been preached by the dentist, but he never knew it. Shall I share that theological truth with you? I put off doing what I should have done long ago. This is human nature. How many of us should have made a visit to our Maker's presence long ago, only to put it off? When I finally did go, it was out of the sense of desperation. And isn't this too human nature? We put off any dealings with our Father till our life is about spent, and we feel the situation is desperate. And when I did go, I felt the tooth was too far gone. I had no hopes of saving it. Again, many who come to the Father consider their lives too rotten, too far gone to cleanse and save. It hurt getting all the old decayed portion removed. This, too, is the way it is with life. It hurts to admit all our sins, to see ourselves as we really are. It hurts to confess our mistakes, to say we were wrong. The pain of the drill was necessary. So is the pain of confession. Perhaps the most important part is that I came away with a new tooth. And after the pain and hurt is over, our Father gives us a new lease on life. We can come away with the decay of sin gone and a clean life in front of us. I guess many of us are with the Father like I was with the dentist. We've put it off too long already. If you're listening and there's still life in your roots, there's still movement in your soul, then there is still hope. Better not wait any longer to make that visit.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand God, any who seek God. Psalm 14, verse 2.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano, Wesley Wildman, and Fred Jackson. And, fellas, what's it called? Diversity what? Diversity?
DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Did I get that right? I think so.
Well, I'm writing this down so I don't forget, because I was almost cut out of that last half hour. You guys almost didn't include my diversity, my equality, or my
equity.
Equity. Is that what it is?
Equity.
And inclusion in that segment. But I appreciate you did.
We saved it.
I'm the DEI officer.
You are here on the show?
Yeah, so that's why I did include you.
Okay, thank you.
But I do think...
And Ed is our minority.
I don't know why I'm more of a minority than the Canadian over
Well,
there.
that's true. You're half Greek, half Italian.
Yeah.
So we get some credit for that.
Yeah.
You get some credit.
And you don't know what you are, do you?
Well, I did that. My brother did that ancestry thing.
Ancestry.
We go back to the British Isles.
2%
But I
Native
don't
American.
think they count. Huh?
They're not even on the chart?
I don't think.
If your history is from the British Isles, you could have some Viking in you. The Vikings
Do
took
they
over
count?
for a while.
They're blonde and anyway. All right. Would they count? That
I'm
counts.
just saying.
I might have some in
You may
me.
want to throw that into a conversation.
I'm almost.
At the next party.
Could have some leprechaun in there too. Though.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
sure to me going.
British Isles, but leprechaun that would count, right? If I had like an 8th leprechaun.
They're magically delicious. That's all I know. You ever eaten a leprechaun?
Yeah.
Man.
All right, Fred Jackson. Fred, Canadian. What's
Canadian?
your ancestry though?
Scottish.
Scottish.
My mom was a Mackenzie, and my grandfather taught Gaelic.
Really?
Yes, Kamahow.
How
are you? How are you?
All right. Well, I want to.
Tim wants to move away
I want to explore that more, but we've held our guest holding, and I don't know how much time he has. Steve Dace joins us from Iowa. Steve is host of the Steve Dace Show on Blaze TV. Longtime friend of our ministry. Steve, good morning to you.
Brother, I used to be a friend. I've been on hold listening to you guys talk about DEI.
Yes.
I mean, I thought this was the American Family Association, where DEI stood for demonic immolation of everything. What in the world is going on here? Okay?
I don't know. We're trying to stay,
trying to fit in, Steve.
Fit in with pop culture, Steve. I don't know. But maybe we're wrong.
How much money did you guys donate to the He Gets Us ad, Tim?
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Now you're just getting nasty, Steve.
Yeah. So, are you driving to the studio to do your show or what?
I am right now as we speak. Yes.
All right. How long do you have? Tell me.
For you, I've got a good 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. We're going to play a clip from you, your appearance. Set this up for us because you were making an appearance before the Iowa legislature. What was that about?
So we've got a bill in Iowa similar to what they just did in Florida that just essentially confirms sanity. There's only 2 genders, and you can't claim anything else on any government or public document like a driver's license. And I normally don't do much publicly here in my home state because I'm so visible elsewhere that I want to give my kids, some form of a normal life. But
right.
The governor herself asked me to come down and be one of the spokespersons for this, so I could not say no to her. So I was given 2 minutes, and I frankly didn't even need that much.
Okay. What we're about to play is Steve's testimony before the Iowa State Legislature. When was this? What day was this?
Oh, God, this was Monday.
Monday. Okay, go ahead, Brent. Play.
My name is Steve Dace, and I am here to express my support for the bill. You will hear a lot of opinions here in the next hour. In opposition to this bill, you will hear no facts. There are no facts in opposition to this because what we're being asked to do is to deny the most basic fact of human biology, the first fact that was stated about every single person in this room. No one ever was announced to the world as a non-binary construct. The first thing said about every single person in this room is it's a boy, it's a girl. It is the most basic fact of existence. The reason why the other side's arguments sound like the insanity going on out in the rotunda is because literally what they are arguing for is insanity. What we're being asked to do is ignore reality, to redefine reality. We are not permitted to redefine reality. The worst mistakes made in human history occur when we attempt to. Every single atrocity had its basis in we get to redefine reality. There is as much basis of fact in what you're being asked to oppose as there would be for wearing a mask to stop an airborne contagion of a respiratory virus, which is to say none. And that is why there needs to be intimidation and there needs to be shouting and there can't be facts and there can't be reason and there can't be science because there is none to support the opposition to what you are doing. All you are doing is affirming the most and first basic fact of human existence. We are all created either male or female. That's it, period, end of sentence. Thank you very much for the time.
What was that, a minute, 30 seconds, something like that, Steve?
I think it's a minute and 40 seconds,
Yeah.
something like that. And I only brought the mask stuff in, guys, because literally almost everybody on the other side was still wearing a mask, almost as if that was
In the room.
that was a totem. Like,
Yeah.
yes, in the room. Yes.
Yeah.
Almost as if that was a totem
Yeah.
that genuflected the spirit of the age all along and was never about protecting grandma. Funny. Weird.
You mean this past Monday in 2024, there are still government officials in Iowa masked up?
No, they wouldn't do it because the government officials, I would have called them out by name and mocked them to their face.
Okay.
These were the private citizens that did it were the supporters of the opposition saying it's wrong
Same
to confirm
crowd.
reality. Any of them chanting F-bombs and stuff down there on Monday through their masks.
Yeah, these were
Still wearing masks.
These were people out in the rotunda Steve referred to who were there to oppose Steve.
Okay.
And people who were for sanity. Wesley, you were going to ask Steve something?
Well, I was going to say you did exactly what you said you were going to do. You did it under 2 minutes. You didn't
Right.
even need your 2 minutes. And I just appreciate your clarity on this issue. A lot of times, I understand we get into debates with people, and you have, sometimes you have to talk about things, and you have to consider all types of angles. But on this issue, you don't have to. And I appreciate you being extremely clear on this and helping us provide.
Did anybody raise their hand and say, "Hey, when I was born, I wasn't a boy or a girl. I was
No.
Okay, that was
Funny
so
how that works,
poignant.
Tim.
Go ahead.
And you ever notice, Tim, that the people who tell us that people are basically good and you don't need guns always have their own private security forces and lock their doors at night? You ever notice that too? Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
So true.
you just bingoed there, and that was excellent. What did you have? Did it pass?
It's coming out of committee. It will pass. The Democrats called for this. They have no votes to stop it. Kim Reynolds has done to the Democratic Party in Iowa very similar to what you saw Ron DeSantis do in Florida. It's just a letterhead at this point. It's a structure. It has no relevance in Iowa politics. Guys, I can't even remember the name of the Democrat nominee for governor in 2022. I don't remember who it was. They're just not relevant as a party.
Wow.
So this was done. This public hearing was just called for so they could have their zany followers come down and scream and yell and try to intimidate people. That's the only reason it was there. Our state troopers did a great job. It was funny. I actually knew many of them, or they were fans of my show. So they were like, "Hey, Steve!" All the while, these people, the mob outside Lott's house is spilling its bowels out there in the rotunda. So it was just a weird scene.
Yeah.
But it's the kinds of scenes we're seeing more and more of, and we're going to see more and more of in the immediate future. What you're seeing now is doctrines of demons being manifested as public policy, literally out in the open. The kind of stuff that the generation of hosts before me, the Rush Limbaughs, Glenn, who's still around, the kind of stuff that you listen to these guys years ago, and they warned you, if we don't stop this now, this is where this is going to go. This is
Right.
where they're going to take this. We're there now. We're at that point now. We didn't stop it before, so we're at that point now. We are literally at the lip to the mouth of madness right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, Steve, thanks so much, brother, for being on with us and for your excellent comments there in front of the state legislature, and we look forward to this legislation passing in Iowa. As you said, it's already gone through in Florida. I know in Florida they said you can't use anything but male and female on your driver's license.
Right.
Is that similar type thing, what you're talking about in this law?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little more comprehensive than theirs, but it's pretty similar, yes. And
Okay.
and I just hope you guys will have me back so I can apply to be the first diversity, equity, and inclusion hire in the history of the American Family Association. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll write that down. Make a note of that, Ed.
Take
All right,
that to
thank you, Steve. God bless you. Have a great day, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Take care. God bless.
Okay, bye-bye. That's Steve Dace joining us from the Hawkeye State.
He has got the most colorful language, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
You hear him talking about the crowd outside of Lot's house. I mean, a clear reference back to Sodom and Gomorrah and all that happened there.
Yeah,
it really is crazy where we're at. We were just talking about the insanity down on the border, but all this kind of stuff, it's it's eye-opening to watch videos, some of these Christian groups or even conservative groups that go on college campuses, and you cannot find college kids who will say, I'm saying you just can't find them, who will say there's two genders.
Yeah.
I've seen videos where you have college kid after college kid say, no, there's all kinds of genders. And then the ones that clearly don't believe that will say, no comment. I've seen it. And then the guy who's got the microphone says, well, why no comment? He says, I need my scholarship, or I don't want any trouble.
Yeah.
So that kind of oppression, it is madness.
Do they still teach biology on university campuses?
This stuff we're talking about, you can find the American Medical Association, you can find its counterpart in Great Britain requiring doctors to say that men can have babies. It's insane.
Yeah. Listen, Vivek Ramaswamy was the first person I heard mention this, and I thought it was brilliant. I hope I can articulate it. He was talking about you know how the people who support the LGBT community, they always say, well, you're born that way.
Right.
You're either born gay or lesbian. You're born that way. Nothing you could do about it. And then the trans comes along, right? And they're put in the same category. And then we're told, wait a minute, sexuality is fluid.
That's right. Yep.
So
you have to pick.
That was before Ramaswamy.
It was.
That was MT Anderson. There's several guys. Maybe Matt Walsh.
Ramaswamy was the first person I've heard to say it out loud that had a big platform.
Sure.
Do you know the point he's making there?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can change your gender at the drop of a hat, but you can't change. But you're not allowed to say a homosexual can change their sexual orientation.
Yeah, they're trapped.
Right. Go ahead, Wesley.
Yeah, and I've heard that point made before as well. But if you go back, if you start studying the LGBTQ movement, you'll realize now in my generation, in my lifetime, this hasn't been the issue. But if you go back and look, they were on polar opposite. They were in odds. They were in war. Maybe that may be a strong of a word, but they were completely at odds. The trans community and the homosexual and gay community for years because of this issue. It wasn't until later on, once the homosexuals and the lesbians, that when they became more, quote, accepted and or you got mainstream and Obergefell. Obergefell was one of the biggest reasons that they felt, they meaning the homosexuals and the lesbians, they felt we wanted now we can be friends with the transgender movement, because they understood the homosexuals and gay people and lesbians. They understood that if the transgender have their way and they're associated with us, that the point that you just made does away with their argument. So this was, if you go back and look at it, those two communities were not friends for the longest. Friends,
Yeah. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. Fred, next.
I just want to just clarify. Ryan T. Anderson is who I was thinking about, and Matt Walsh. I think those are the first two guys I heard. I just want to give credit to Ryan Anderson.
All right. Along the lines of what you gentlemen have been talking about, we're learning more and more about.
We've been more than talking about it. We've been waxing eloquent.
Okay. Waxing eloquent.
I appreciate it.
All right. We're learning more and more about the shooter at the Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas on Sunday. I think most people know by now she's been identified as 36-year-old Janice Marino. But we've been told by police, they say she's used both male and female names in the past. We're also learning that she has quite a criminal background. Mm-hmm. Rap sheet included charges for forging a $100 bill, a 2009 assault conviction for kicking a detention officer, a 2022 misdemeanor count for unlawfully carrying a weapon. Marina went through a divorce. Her former mother-in-law at divorce proceedings in documents in that divorce case. Wally Carranza is the name of her former mother-in-law, alleged Marino had a history of threatening people with guns or being careless with how they were stored around her young son. All right, so we have this shooting at the Lakewood Church on Sunday.
Now, was this at the main campus?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was just before. It was early afternoon, just before an Hispanic church service.
Now, is she biologically a male trying to be a female, or
She's a female.
She's a biological female who was a transgender man?
In the past, she's gone back and forth.
Okay.
All right. And, of course, the little 7-year-old who was with her has been identified as her biological son, who was wounded in this case. People have been talking also about the transgender involved in the Nashville school shooting back several months ago. Yesterday on Tony Perkins' Washington Watch program, he had as one of his guests Dr. Jennifer Bowens, who is the Family Research Council's director of the Center for Family Studies. And basically the thrust of the interview with Dr. Bowens was she doesn't believe enough is being done to research violence amongst those who identify themselves or have been transgender. So I want to play you a little bit of that interview and perhaps discuss a little bit more beyond what she's saying. So it's cut number 13.
I believe that part of what gave rise to using hormones to deal with gender distress or whatever, however you want to call it, is from the desire to fix something with a pill, to have a quick fix rather than to actually deal with those underlying issues, which we're clearly seeing a baseline with so many of these shooting incidents. There's already mental health distress, and now you're going to throw the wild card of hormones into the mix of this. It's a recipe for disaster.
So what she was saying is that perhaps not enough research has been done, but you add hormones into someone who's already emotionally not stable, and we haven't done enough research, what kind of impact that is having. She also went on to talk about the fact that society, culture, and the media keep referring to these people who are identifying as trans as being an oppressed minority. So along with perhaps chemical issues, you have this information campaign that's out there telling these people you are being oppressed. She is suggesting society ought to be looking at that, because put those things together and perhaps is behind these violent incidents involving those who are transsexual.
Well, it's very insightful comments that she's made. Julie Bowen, is that her name?
Dr. Jennifer Bowens.
Jennifer Bowen, okay. Bowens. It's very insightful because let's agree. I don't think I'm being unfair to the medical and mental health communities by saying that their primary approach to solving medical or mental health issues is with drugs. Okay. Now, sometimes that seems to be very helpful. Okay. And I'm not saying that people with mental health issues are not helped by taking medications, but it is a little bit of a wild card because we're all different. I mean, just look at the variety of allergies that people have just to eating foods. Okay, you'll have one child in the family who everyone else is fine with peanuts. You suddenly discover that the one kid is severely allergic. So we're all very different, and sometimes this one size fits all approach with medication misses the mark. That's just when you're not even dealing with mental health issues. But you toss those kinds of mental health issues, all the social chaos that's going on with being trans, quote unquote, and it is a recipe for disaster. And if you tell, like you just said, as Jennifer Bowens was saying, if you tell a person who is already struggling with their own mental health and they're already struggling with their own self-image, you tell them that the Christians are your enemies because they're trying to pass laws to do this. They're trying. It is no wonder that we're starting to see some of these transits go haywire and start because this isn't the only time it happened. Nashville isn't the only time this has happened. There was a case in Colorado. We're starting to see more of this, and I don't think it's going to stop.
The shooter in Nashville at the Christian school there, but how many people died in that? Do you remember?
I think there were 6. I'm just going by memory there.
Remember, they wouldn't tell us who this person was and what their motivation was. And then we learned it was a girl who thought she was a boy, right?
Mm-hmm. Former student,
but a former student of 10, 15 years ago. So it wasn't an emotional reaction of the moment against her fellow students who maybe she would say, well, they're bullying me for my sexual orientation, whatever you want to call it. This was a well thought out, planned, methodical a murder spree. Mm-hmm. She was killed.
Yes. By
the police officers there.
But she killed 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults before being so 6.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been against them personally because they did something to her.
Right.
That's my point. It was because she wanted to kill Christians. And that's also the reason they delayed the release, in my opinion.
But they didn't even release it.
No, it was leaked.
No, that's the thing. They still have yet to release it.
Who leaked that, by the way? Was that Sean Hannity? Stephen Crowder. Mm-hmm. Okay. But the point is, that didn't fit the narrative of the liberal media, who, they got to find their bad guy. Their bad guy's got to be a Christian, not a transgendered individual. Listen, it is complex, an issue with these poor souls who are tortured by thinking they're one thing or another. They're born male, they think they're a female. They're born male, think they're a female, or vice versa. However, I think today's situation, we've seen the explosion, literal explosion across America of kids who say that they're transgendered. Mm-hmm. This is not people who have been traumatized by their childhood. These are people who are reacting to popular culture.
Yes, so you have entertainment, you'll have TV shows.
Yeah, and they applaud you.
They applaud
You're
you.
trans.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're trans, so they applaud them. So they think, hey, I want to be the cool kid.
That's right.
So I'm going to dress up like a girl today and pretend like I'm a girl, even though I'm a male. Go ahead.
That's right. And if you're a parent, in some cases, in some states, as we covered last week, and you oppose your child, and you say that's not right, we're not going to go down that road. In any opposition, I don't remember the details of the story from last week. Was it in Ohio, Michigan? There was a couple. There was a parent. There were a set of parents in the United States last week who opposed their daughter being trans, and they took her. Where was that? Michigan?
That was they took the child to Wyoming. I think it was Montana. No, maybe it was Michigan, but the child was taken to Wyoming.
In that particular case, the parents were in opposition of the daughter transitioning to a man.
Is it a minor?
A minor, and they took the daughter. They took the kid from the parents.
By the way, there are some. We do need to be clear here. There are people who are disputing that the woman at the church, the Houston church, they're disputing that this person was transgender. They're saying she was a woman. However, the police have said this woman has identified in the past as a man.
Yes.
So.
All right, we're going to take a short time out right here. Sandy Rios will be along with us in a few minutes. That'll be a very interesting conversation about her new autobiography. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
In Psalm 139, David writes that God formed his inward parts, that he was knit together in his mother's womb. He was fearfully and wonderfully made. What was true of David is surely true of you and me. In fact, it's true of every man and woman, every boy and girl, and every baby born and unborn. A thought from American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. More backlash from Republicans following Special Counsel Robert Hur's decision not to charge President Biden in the probe regarding his handling of classified documents. In his report, Hur said that the president would likely come off as, quote, a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. New York Republican Representative Elise Stefanik says there is a two-tiered justice system that exists under this president's leadership.
There cannot be one set of rules if your last name is Biden and another set of rules for the rest of America. And the American people know that if someone is mentally unfit to stand trial, they are unfit to serve as commander-in-chief.
President Biden told reporters on Tuesday he was not taking questions during remarks he made at the White House following last week's disastrous press conference. Biden stuck to the script for roughly 8 minutes, speaking about the Senate passing the $95 billion foreign aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. He also attacked former President Trump. Fox News contributor Joe Concha says this man isn't capable of answering any questions.
Did you see his schedule yesterday? There was literally nothing on it outside of lunch with Kamala Harris. So he had nowhere to go. There was no pressing issue where he had to leave and not take questions. This president, I'll say it again, is an absolute coward because he should be telling his advisors, no, I want to answer questions. I want to show that I have the mental acuity to do this job. And instead, he just stutters off and wanders off after making a statement when he had nowhere to go. This is a president who's like a remote control car, completely controlled and driven by others in terms of when he cannot speak to reporters and therefore the American people.
A Georgia judge who is deciding whether to toss Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis off her election interference case against former President Trump has a hearing set for Thursday. It's expected to focus on details of Willis's personal relationship with a special prosecutor she hired. House Judiciary Committee member Lance Gooden of Texas says a lot of questions need to be answered.
Well, I'd like to know why this state prosecutor, and the one I'm referring to is the gentleman who's had the inappropriate relationship with someone who's paying his bills, and that's Fani Willis, the prosecutor. Frankly, let me correct myself, that's the taxpayers of Fulton County and the federal taxpayers across this nation, because they have received quite a bit of federal funds to that office there in Fulton County, Georgia. I'd like to know what kind of coordination the White House had with this prosecutor, who then went to work for Fani Willis, who has continued overseeing this prosecution of Donald Trump. I'd also like to know to what extent her office as a whole continues to work with the Justice Department, because this comes down to the weaponization of government and election interference.
The feedback is still pouring in on the He Gets Us Super Bowl ad that showed various people washing other people's feet. But as one Christian apologist explains, the ad is not what it seems.
You may remember the ad. People with various identities were washing the feet of those the audience would perceive as enemies. The obvious message is that we should be like Jesus and love our enemies. Frank Turek of CrossExamined.org tells the Today's Issues crew that's true, but Jesus used foot washing to convey something completely different.
They want us to think that Jesus just came to make people accept everyone and not push back on any sinful behavior. That's not what Jesus came to do.
He says Jesus came to die for the sins of the world, and if we love our neighbor without telling them that they need to repent of their sins, we're loving our neighbor all the way to hell.
He came to be our substitute, not our example. But if he is our substitute, then he is our example.
The evangelical world seems to be split on their opinion of the Super Bowl ad. Some, like Turek, say it sends the wrong message. Others say it's just good to have the name of Jesus mentioned to the millions who watch the big game.
They're talking about Jesus. Isn't that a good thing? Not if it's deceiving people as to who the true Jesus was.
In fact, Turek says it's not just the wrong message, it's a bait and switch.
It's a deceptive move here to try and get people to think Jesus was all about coming to make us treat one another better. That's a result of why Jesus came. That's not the reason he came.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hi, this is Sandy Rios. You know what? I miss you in the mornings, but now I'm hosting Sandy Rios 24/7, which is available at afr.net and sandyrios.com. And by the way, I finally wrote that book. God's Velvet Hammer chronicles God's call in my life from a small town girl to Berlin, Germany, Radio Moscow, North Korea, and Washington, D.C. Like the Apostle Paul, these are my shipwrecks and adventures, all for Christ and His kingdom. God's Velvet Hammer is available wherever books are sold.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano, Wesley Wildman, and Steve Jordahl.
Hey.
And how you doing, Brother Steve?
I'm well.
Steve Paisley Jordahl should give you your formal.
Don't
miss that part of you. It's part of your persona now.
Well,
when people come to visit us here at our studios, they want to
meet.
They want to meet.
Actually,
But
do.
and
Steve
Paisley Jordahl.
Yeah,
And
actually do ask for that. Yeah.
And since New Year's, he has also added to his Paisley by providing food on occasion.
Yeah.
Most of which he has cooked. Today he has food in which you did not cook.
I did not cook this. No.
But you have food.
I do. I would like to
Wait,
share.
you've been bringing food?
Yeah, you remember the chocolate chili?
Well, he wasn't here. He was
Oh,
not, he,
yeah.
he went on campus.
Yes.
Yeah, the chocolate chili. I heard about that.
Yeah.
I
You
remember
had
that.
chocolate chili, and then you
That
followed that
still
up.
doesn't
Mexican
sound-
cookies or
The
something.
Mexican cookies with spice, but it had the red peppers in it or something.
Ooh,
Yeah, it was.
It had a little bite to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chocolate chili. That sounds unpatriotic.
It was really good.
It is really good. So good. I made some. We had a Super Bowl party, SOUPER bowl party at our church on Sunday, and I made some, and it was so good. And a lot of people were talking about it. So
yeah,
I don't think you're
That's what I
supposed
hear.
to be bragging about your own stuff, though.
if you can
You're bragging, you lose
it's
your-
If it's
right-
that
if
good.
you can do it. You can back it up. It's not bragging, is what they say.
So
No,
what-
this is. I have
you
in
have
front of
here?
me some popcorn that my lovely wife, for some unknown reason, adores me. It's blowing my mind, but she loves me, and she sent me. a
We're
Valentine's
all
Day gift.
amazed
I know.
at
Right? What in the world? I must have brainwashed her at some point.
So we
but
got
anyway,
some Paisley popcorn.
it's a Paisley popcorn. It's
Okay.
half cheese and half caramel corn.
Caramel corn.
Yeah.
All right, I worked at a caramel corn place in high school.
Did you?
Did you
Yeah.
really?
That might
I
explain
did.
a lot.
In the old mall in Tupelo, right?
But when you worked at a place like that, after about 3 months, you don't want to ever
Never
taste
see it again.
you don't want caramel corn ever.
So you
again.
don't like caramel
I
corn
do,
now?
I do, but
But not for
Small-
2 years after.
small dosage. Small dosage.
That's the way I am with Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
You know,
That's-
fed it a lot as a kid,
There's
and
no-
then you grow up.
There's no reason to eat Brussels sprouts. Honestly.
That's the next thing I'm bringing in then.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues. Well, our morning host on American Family Radio for 10 years was Sandy Rios. Many of you obviously are familiar with Sandy, and she's got a podcast now. She left the morning slot, but she's got 3 days a week. She's got a podcast on American Family Radio. So if you want to hear Sandy 24/7, it's called Sandy Rios 24/7. That's the name of the podcast. Simply go to afr.net. AFR.net, click on podcast, and then click on Sandy Rios 24/7. As I say, Sandy provides 3 shows a week of podcasting, and we encourage you to go there and listen. And Sandy joins us now. Her new autobiography is out called God's Velvet Hammer. Sandy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tim. Can I give an editorial remark?
Go.
One thing you won't hear me talk about, or one thing you won't find in the book, is anything about food. Anything about food. I do love to eat,
Right.
But it's not my area of expertise.
Well,
Well, that's it. I'm putting this on aside then.
I know,
Now,
Steve.
Brooke-
I'm impressed. I'm so impressed with you, Steve.
Well, next time you're in town, let me know. We'll bring you some chocolate chili.
Okay.
And Ed's going to get some chocolate-covered Brussels sprouts.
No, I'm
Everything I
not.
do is chocolate.
Chocolate will not save Brussels sprouts.
Little maple and bacon will, though.
That's true. That's true.
Well, anything you got to put stuff on it to make it taste good.
That's a good point.
Shouldn't be eaten in the first place.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
in Leviticus.
Does that apply to ice cream when you put chocolate sauce and caramel?
No,
and
because you would like ice cream by itself.
By itself. I see your
Oh,
point.
okay.
You see my
That
point?
if you
have
have
to
to
put it
make
on, yeah.
Brussels
Cover it up.
sprouts palatable by putting bacon
Yeah.
on it, you might as well just skip the Brussels sprouts and eat the bacon.
That's my
I
point.
see your point.
That's my point. All right, Sandy, your new book is out called God's Velvet Hammer. We want everybody to get a copy of it. It's called, subtitled, How an Ordinary Girl Was Called to Do Extraordinary Things. I remember, Sandy, whenever it was, a year and a half ago or so, you and I met. You were in Tupelo for a share-a-thon. I think it was in October. Have I got the story right so far?
Yeah, I think so.
And then you said, I need to talk. And need to
And she
talk.
hadn't stopped talking since.
Well, it was
Now, wait a minute.
it was I need to tell you something you're probably not going to want to hear talk. That was kind of the So we sat down and Sandy said, I'm going to step down as the morning host on American Family Radio. I want to do a podcast, and I'm trying, and I got to step down in 2 weeks or whenever it was. She gave me like a 2-week notice. Said I got to.
You're still holding that against me.
Well,
he's bitter. He's bitter.
I'm bitter like Brussels sprouts, No, but one of the things you told me at the time was I'm under a time crunch to finish a book. Well, this was the book. Sandy,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
And you were trying to finish it by a certain date. God's Velvet Hammer. So first of all, tell us where people can get the book, and then we want to get into some of the stories and content of the book. And Steve, you can have the first question.
All right.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Well, you can buy. It's
Anywhere?
available today. Today's the launch. You can buy it anywhere. Right now, I don't know. I'm thinking probably Amazon is the best, even though it's not the best. Just to get, they have rankings, and those rankings help you sell more. And just for
Gotcha.
right now, that's probably a good place to go.
Okay.
So it's available as of today. Yeah.
Okay. It's called God's Velvet Hammer, Sandy Rios, RIOS. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, Sandy, I just got a copy this morning. I've been kind of leafing through it, and you've had quite a storied life. I can't wait to read this whole thing. But I know later in your career, you did some Christian ministry. You were with Concerned Women for America, and I know during that time, you kind of became America's sweetheart, maybe the most popular woman in America. I remember I found this. You talked about this at a banquet one time. I want to hear this. Let's listen to cut 14.
Well, some people don't like me. I know that's a surprise, but I got an email just this week, and it said, are you mentally retarded? And that was the end of the email. And I wrote him back. I said, I don't think so, but I really appreciate your concern. And then I got another one just a week or so ago, and it said, we are really big fans. So we sent you this, and it was a link, and I linked to it, and there's this very large man standing on the steps of a city hall with his face blacked out, holding a sign that went like right to here, and it said, we hate Sandy Rios. And I wrote him back, I said, I can see that you are a really big fan. Could I recommend Seattle Sutton? So we have some fun.
Sandy, I love your popularity. What is Seattle Sutton?
Oh, it was one of those diet programs like Jenny Craig. It was like prepared food, and the guy in the picture was huge.
Touche.
I forgot. Gosh, I don't even know where you got that.
Where did
Steve.
you get that?
The internet is forever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh wow.
Well, the book is called. We're talking to Sandy Rios, host of Sandy Rios 24/7 or podcast on American Family Radio. The name of the book that releases today on Valentine's Day, God's Velvet Hammer, How an Ordinary Girl Was Called to Do Extraordinary Things. Now, Sandy, I have heard a lot of your testimony, and it really is extraordinary. Just the way you came to AFR was a God thing. You don't necessarily have to explain that situation again, but just tell our listeners, just encourage them about the fact that, as you say in your book, success in God's kingdom is not all about going to the right schools and getting the right degrees. And if you don't have this advantage and this advantage, you'll never succeed. I have nothing against schooling,
or learning
or any of those kinds of things. But there really is a divine calling to our lives, and God does help you, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I think of Ben Franklin, who said that, he wrote once that God dwells in the affairs of people. The more he spent time in this, the founding of the countries, the more he was convinced that God dwells in the affairs of people. Now, that was not a trite thing for him to say. And I think he calls, look, I think of C.S. Lewis had all of these degrees and the, gentleman background. And the point of my story is that I had nothing like that. I was from, my dad didn't graduate from the 8th grade. My mother's family could have stepped out of the pages of Grapes of Wrath. I mean, my mother was picking fruit as a kid in California because the family could not survive financially. So that's my dad did well as a businessman, but those are my roots, very plain. And God doesn't care about that. What He cares about, from my perspective, is that I think of this image of just standing on a cliff and overseeing this, plunge before you and just leaning forward with your arms up. I mean, I do think that that's really what I did in service when God called me. I just said, everything is yours. Everything is yours. And I don't, no matter what happens. Now, look, this is a bold statement. And I don't want to make some declaration that heaven knows what the future may hold. But I just told Jesus, whatever you want, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do. And of course, He didn't take me anywhere I had in mind. I thought I was going to have kids, and be a mom and cook and whatever else people do. But God ended up, when I was 21, I ended up in Berlin, Germany. This is during the Cold War. My husband was stationed there, and this was during Vietnam. And I used to drive through Checkpoint Charlie, which was take barriers, guards with their guns pointed at you, snake through that, and to get into a colorless, tasteless, odorless black and white East Berlin with Russian soldiers everywhere, East German soldiers everywhere, hardly any cars, quiet on the streets. You go to a restaurant and people wouldn't even look up from their plate. They were bent over. You could just hear the clicking of the forts because they were so oppressed. My husband at the time ran for the Charlottenburg Sports Club. And when they would have meets over there, no one would cheer. That's how oppressive communism is. And you have to know how much of an impression that made on me at that time. And also, I was at Berlin Brigade one day looking for a piece of paper, and I opened up a drawer to look for a piece of paper. And inside, I saw the picture of when I pulled it out, I realized it was a baby torn into pieces. Now, abortion, Roe versus Wade had not even been decided. This is before 73. This is around the same year. And when I was growing up, we knew kind of what abortion was, but it was like a dirty word. You did not say that word, and you didn't really know anything about it. And I have to tell you, when I looked at that picture, it was like a knife in my heart. I always think it must be like pornography is to men. When you see an image and you can't get it out of your mind. And that just started in that way. And then, of course, I sang with the U.S. Army Band, and the head of the special, what it was called, it was the musical thing of the American forces, wanted to take me to New York and make me famous. He had it in his head that I could do that. But at the same time, I was in a Bible study in the home of the commandant of Spandau prison. Spandau was guarding the last remaining Nazi war criminal, Rudolf Hess, and Eugene Byrd was the American commandant, because the American commandant took care of him 2 weeks, head of the prison, and then the French and the British, they took turns. So we sat in his home, and the Bible study teacher was a Scottish woman, and she'd always say, "Speak, Lord, in the stillness, while we wait on thee, and hush our hearts in expectancy." And I sat at her feet every week, and then all of those things, those parts of my life congealed at that age, in the sense that I was impassioned about freedom. I was impassioned about the value of life. I was very clear that I could not go to New York City and be some sort of star, even if that were possible, that God had His hand on my life. And so I said, no, I won't, I'm not doing that. And then just my spiritual calling. So I came back to the States, and I was 7 months pregnant, and I gave birth to a very severely disabled child who I cared for the next 20 years. That is not at all what I thought God was going to call me to do. And of course, later, after many years of heartbreak, God gave me a musical career, I hate to say that, musical ministry. Had a number 4 song on the charts with Michael English. I ended up in D.C. I ended up in doing the first American broadcast on Radio Moscow, and on it goes.
Yeah.
And each time, Ed, it was a call, and Tim, it was just a phone call that would change my life and take it in a different direction.
Talking to Sandy Rios, her book is out today, God's Velvet Hammer. And you want to get a copy of it anywhere books are sold online. How an Ordinary Girl Was Called to Do Extraordinary Things. Sandy, you mentioned about Sasha, your daughter, which was, what kind of condition did she have? Was she born with it?
We didn't know it at the time, Tim. She seemed fine, although my labor was really bad. And I had a sense.
When was this? 1980s or 70s? When was
she was born in 1974.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So there's a lot to the story, as you could imagine, and I write about it. Actually, Tim, people for years wanted me to write a book about Sasha, and I did not want to. I was adamant. I didn't want to live through that again. But in this book, I finally put it on paper. I think the timing is right. But it wasn't until she was 3 months old that she began to seizure. And after that bout, she was having them constantly. She just was limp like a rag. And I knew instinctively that I had lost her. On some level, I had lost her. Excuse me just a second.
Talking to Sandy Rios. Get some water there.
Yeah. Sorry. Allergies.
You've been talking so much today,
Yeah.
and go ahead.
And even more on today's issue. I mean, American Family Radio today.
Yeah. Yes. And thank you for asking. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity, Tim. You guys are family, and I really do appreciate it. Sasha just continued to, she did never improve. She only got worse. And that was one of the hardest parts for me in terms of my faith. It's like, Lord, I told you there was nothing I wouldn't do. I would do anything. Take me anywhere. But this, I was confined. I'm a real type A, busy, and I was confined.
But you had to physically, as she grew, you had to physically lift her every day, right?
Yes, she lived till she was about 36. I kept her at home till she was 20. And yes, I had to lift her and bathe her and feed her, which was very tedious. And then sometimes I would spend an hour, 45 minutes feeding her, and then she would throw everything up, projectile vomit. Yeah, and the worst part about it was that she would be sick. She was sick all the time. And I think parents, who have a sick child all can relate to when your child has a fever and you're so worried. You're just so worried they're sick with something. But when the fever breaks, you have this, oh my goodness, this incredible relief. Having a child like Sasha was like having that pressure all the time, only there's never any relief. And it wears on you. And of course, but now I'm telling you all the bad things, but this is also true. Sasha changed my life. God used Sasha. I always say, God used Sasha to break my heart. And then he used Jeremy to kind of mend it again. And he also taught me that you've never really known real joy until you've known real sorrow. And Sasha was such a blessing to me. It's very hard to explain that part. Mm-hmm. I loved her so much. I didn't love her any less than any of you who have a child. She was not loved any less. Right. I adored her. So God taught me patience. Oh my gosh, did I need that lesson? I still need that lesson. He taught me so much. He taught me about endurance. Oh my goodness. Did you ever think about the fact that God wants us to have endurance? The Bible tells us that Jesus endured the cross. We are to have endurance, but the only way you can learn endurance is to endure. And who wants that? Who wants that? And that's what God brought into my life. I accept it fully. I accepted that. I yielded again to him, but it was many years before I could actually talk about it with some perspective. Yeah. So then after that, really honestly, Tim, my profession, what I'm known for, my professional life, my whatever success you might call it, my call to CWA, Concerned Women for America, my trips to China and North Korea and doing the radio show from Radio Moscow and all of the other incredible things that God brought into my
of
life.
course,
And doing,
Tupelo.
yeah, Tupelo, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
don't forget that.
Yeah, no, I won't.
Right,
That was
right,
that was a very important.
Right,
You know, and then doing television and starting out doing radio, drive time radio in Chicago. I mean, I always say I've like had 8 lives. I just have, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what God gave me after I went through that fire. And the things that I would never. Are you kidding me? You think when I was taking care of Sasha, I thought, gee, I think, I should be able to do drive time radio in Chicago. Chicago's a talk radio town. Who would think that way? Not me.
Right.
And so it was that way at every step. And that includes coming to American Family Radio, Tim, as you know.
Sandy, this is Wesley here. Good to hear from you.
Hello, Wesley. How are you?
Doing great. Well, first of all, congratulations. That's a major accomplishment to start and finish a book and have it published. And
but she quit on us in the meantime.
And he's still bitter.
It's still there.
He's still- that's bitter.
Can't get over it.
Bittersweet thing.
She did completely. She does obviously with her
I know
podcast.
that. I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. So on to my question. With the we got about 4 minutes left, give or take. What inspired the title of? Because it's a very intriguing or thought-provoking title. What inspired the title to your book?
Well, Wesley, it won't be too much of a surprise to you that when I was in D.C., I took on a lot of controversy, and I took on a lot of people whose names you would know, people in leadership positions, and I didn't look for those fights. I did not look for those confrontations. I'm actually very, maybe it's hard for you to believe, but I'm a peacemaker. I'm a quiet girl. I was always a sweet girl. That's what they used to say. Big smile, sweet. I never looked for fights. I didn't want to confront people, but yet God made me do that. I can just tell you, and I talk about it in the book. Sometimes I say, please, God, don't make me do this. But he put me in positions where that's exactly what happened. And so one time, and I got into fights. I mean, I took on Jocelyn Elders, the Surgeon General for Bill Clinton, because she was advocating sex for children. And I mean, that made me furious. So I fought. But someone said to me one time, you're a velvet hammer. You do fight, but you're a velvet hammer. And I never forgot that, but I am God's velvet hammer. I'm not, on my own, just delightfully being some hammer.
Amen. Well, Sandy Rios has been with us this half hour. If you want to listen to Sandy's podcast, she does 3 a week, and they're available at our website. Go to afr.net, click on podcast, and then you'll see the banner for Sandy Rios 24/7, and you can click there and listen to Sandy's any of her podcasts she's recently done, and she's doing three times a week. Go ahead, Sandy.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
just
go
to
ahead.
weigh in on something.
Yeah.
Is this a girly book?
No.
No, it's not. No, it's not a girly book. It's a
biography.
It's a biography, and it's listen.
I thought she asked me, but go ahead.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Tim.
No,
I'm sorry.
This is not your day.
Now he's bitter at me.
I'm just saying what everybody's thinking. She said, Tim, what do you think? And then Steve and Ed.
We're all rushing to her defense.
Right, no.
We care for her.
Right. This is a wonderful book. It's not. It's gender neutral. It's a story of your life, and it's God's calling on your life, and it's the good, bad, and the ugly, and you lay it out there, and some wonderful pictures in here too of your growing up and your family. I love the whole book. I highly recommend it. God's Velvet Hammer, Sandy Rios, Rios.
Hey, Sandy, who do you want to play you in the movie?
I don't know. No, I'm not even going to say.
Okay.
I don't know. Ruth Buzzy.
Ruth Buzzy.
I think she's dead. I don't know.
It goes back to that's laugh in. We're talking 60s.
With the purse, and she'd swing.
Yeah.
God's velvet hammer.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. Everybody take care. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of Today's Issues.
Spiritual Heritage Tours with AFA President Tim Wildman include a tour of Washington, D.C.